Welcome to My Forever Home, the podcast. I'm Frances Cosway and I've helped hundreds of people create forever homes. I know firsthand how different it is creating a forever home rather than a house you plan to flip in a few years' time. I believe your forever home should reflect what you love and suit your lifestyle rather than being about trends and resale value. You're creating a home for you and your family, not anyone else. So I'm here to help and guide you along the way. I'm going to share all there is to know about creating a quality forever home that's functional, sustainable, future-proof and adaptable to your family's changing needs, so it's multi-generational. We don't do cheap and nasty here. We're about creating things to last. It is your forever home after all. I want to help you gain the knowledge you need to be planned and prepared to create the forever home of your dreams. I can't wait to share the journey with you. So let's start. Hello and welcome to this episode of My Forever Home, the podcast. It has been some time since I have recorded a podcast for you. It's been about 4 months and I am back now, so you can expect the podcast to be released as it was every 3 weeks. So I do apologise for my absence. As some of you may know from a previous episode that I did, just as a personal update, I lost my daughter unexpectedly in March, and that has certainly been a railroad experience. And it's certainly meant that I've not been able to just be able to do the normal things that I was doing for a period of time. But I've certainly been thinking about the podcast and that I need to and want to be able to come back and get back into the swing of things. So here I am. Today I'm going to be talking to you about kitchen trends for 25. Well, kitchen trends that have sort of been evolving over the last year or so and what I see going to be happening. Now, I have to preface this because those of you who know me well and have been listening to this podcast for quite some time, we're into over 150 episodes now. I'm not a believer in trends. I'm not a believer in following a trend, and particularly when you are creating your forever home, that a trend is something that you should be focusing on when you're creating your home. So it feels a little bit odd that I'm going to be talking about trends, but I think what I wanted to talk about here was, yes, what's upcoming, but also for you to be thinking about those are things that actually I have been I've gravitated to my whole life, or I've gravitated to not just because I'm seeing it more, and also some of the things that are coming up that are also quite classic as well, so that I don't feel that they are going to date necessarily. Everything will eventually date, but there are things that have sort of come into our design fold that have basically lingered. And a really good example of that is black tapware. When that came out, people were really nervous that that was going to be something that was a trend, i.e. it was going to come and go quite quickly. And black tapware now has been around for over 10 years and it's not going anywhere. What has actually happened is other tapware colours have come into the fold, and there's such an incredible array of tapware colours. So there will be things that come in to vogue, but are going to linger. And I'll touch on some of those things as well in this podcast. So, of course, in Australia, not of course, you may not be aware. And so I'll enlighten you now that what we see come out of Europe, so all the big kitchen shows and all the big European shows for hard surfaces and so forth, because that's relevant for kitchens, they take a long time to get to Australia. So I normally estimate that if I'm seeing something that is evolving in Europe, it's going to take at least 5 years for that to actually come to Australia. So we are, as a nation, we sort of lag behind. Some of those things will come to the fold and appear in Australia sooner than 5 years. Some won't actually hit our shores at all because we have a different lifestyle, we have a different aesthetic. And so they won't come at all. But things that are evolving in Europe, I tend to feel like, yeah, how they're going to sort of come in the next 5 or so years. One of those is at the moment is around neutrals, and greys are definitely something that is absolutely well and truly gone. For me, that's actually a good thing. I've always gravitated personally to warm colour palettes, and warm is definitely coming back into the fold. You can see that in the mochas, in the burgundies. There's a warm, aesthetic and feeling coming into colour palettes that are coming in, that are coming back. And look, I wouldn't be too fussed about that. You need to, as always, go with and grab it and run with things that you gravitate to. So for me, it's warm. I don't care if grey's in and the cooler color tones, because that's never going to make me feel comfortable. What makes me feel comfortable are the warmer color aesthetics. So, but it's going to come and go. Greys have been a really big feature in our homes for a good 5 years. But they are definitely, they're done. They are on their way out, but they've actually been on their way out for quite some time now. So what are some of the colours that we're seeing come into kitchens? Look, over the last couple of years, I have seen a gravitation away from white kitchens. So people are now getting a little bit braver, which I think is fabulous, and they're feeling as though they want to have a little bit of colour in their kitchen. And sometimes that can come out in the splashback if you're not feeling as though you're bold enough, or you feel that you may get sick of having a complete coloured kitchen. So that we're bringing it out in splashbacks and as accent colours. But I'm seeing, particularly in the last 2 to 3 years, people are feeling braver, and they want to actually have a coloured kitchen, which I think is fabulous. The most popular colour we've been doing is green, all sorts of different greens, but generally an earthy, olivey, sage sort of green. And we're seeing that come through in the greens that are becoming available in cabinetry colours. So a few years ago, there were a couple of greens available, and now we've got a much broader selection of green cabinetry that we can choose from as designers. And when that happens, we know that it's becoming more and more popular. So the good news for you is, if you are after a coloured kitchen, a coloured cabinetry, there's a lot more to choose from, particularly in greens, but also in the blues. So we're seeing muted blues, pale blues, but navy blue is also very, very popular. Again, as with everything, as I prefaced at the start, you have to love these colours. Don't just do it because it's popular at the moment. For me, if I was doing my kitchen again today, I would choose a green kitchen, because green has just always been a part of my life. I love green. I'm never going to tire of green. So that's the way you need to feel about when you're incorporating a colour into such a bold statement into your kitchen, because that has to then work with the other things that are happening in that space, because it's open plan generally. So greens and blues are definitely popular, and also softer white. So yes, there's white, but we would never ever specify and select a clinical white. Things that are a little bit off-white, so the beiges, they're also becoming more popular. And again, that's because greys are really, well, they're done. If you want to be on trend, absolutely do not choose grey, because it's absolutely gone. Timber is also really popular, and again, that is something that has been coming to the fore in the last few years. I don't see that going away anytime soon, mainly because timber creates warmth. Even if you do have a cool colorway in your home, timber goes with everything, and it does create warmth. It just depends on the color tone of timber that you prefer, whether it's a lighter oaky tone or whether you like the darker tones. Darker timber tones are coming back into vogue. They do come in and out of vogue a lot more. However, here's again my own example. I built my home 11 years ago. Dark timber was not really a thing then, but all my cabinetry is in a dark timber, and that's because I love it. I feel it goes with everything. My books pop in it. I've got lighter accessories that I can have in the bookcases or the shelving, and they pop. So again, you have to love it. And I've got a lot of Wengay. That's the really dark chocolate timbers from things that I brought back from Amsterdam. And so I wanted things to go with that. The dark timber, I find, works with a lot of different things, but it's not for everyone. So choose a color. We're seeing a lot of really dark timber kitchens in that chocolate and also in the charcoal, but we're also seeing a lot of oaks and walnuts. And walnut is another one of those timbers that goes so beautifully. It's warm, it's not too dark, it's not too light. It works with a really beautiful with a modernist interior, but it can go with so many different aesthetics. So it's again around choosing the timber that you really love, the one that you gravitate to. Now, you don't need to have a complete timber kitchen. You may have accents in shelving in timber, combined with a colour or a neutral, or you may actually decide to have maybe the lower cabinetry in timber only or the upper cabinetry in timber only. So there's ways that you can incorporate it without it being a complete timber kitchen. The other thing that we're seeing are textured finishes, and this is something that certainly brings a smile to my face because I love texture. Texture is a way that you can incorporate interest into a space, and this is in your decorating as well. It's not just with your hard surfaces, and it just means that you're able to add interest, and you may have part of a monochromatic scheme. However, when you're using different textures, that makes it a little bit more interesting than it all just being the same type of surface. So what are we seeing in our textured finishes? We're seeing fluted cabinetry is becoming really, really popular. That is possibly something that is going to be a trend. So that's not necessarily going to be a timeless finish, but it looks lovely. Curves are beautiful. A VJ profile, which is when you've got the vertical grooves, that's been popular for a long time. It's also quite timeless in a way. It is a sort of a retro beach house type of vibe, but when you go to a beach house and you see that VJ profile, it never really looks out of keeping. It always looks right. So VJ profiles on the front of island benches, even in some of the cabinetry, depending on the sort of aesthetic you're trying to create, that is really quite a timeless feel. Fluted glass is also something that we're seeing a lot more of. Now, the advantage with fluted glass over plain glass in cabinetry, particularly in overhead cabinetry, people like to break up their cabinetry and have some glass. The thing I'm always mindful of is how tidy everything needs to be behind that glass. With fluted glass, you've got a little bit more flexibility in that you don't need to be super tidy. You can put things behind there and it's not as visible. But again, it's adding another dimension. It's adding a little bit of interest. So fluted glass is we're also seeing it in shower screens. So it is something that can be used in more than one area. Curves are also really popular at the moment. Look, we're seeing it in arches, we're seeing it in curved walls, we're seeing it in curved island benches, we're just seeing it everywhere. The thing that I love about curves is it is actually a timeless aesthetic. If you think about neoclassical architecture, there's curves and arches everywhere. What's really disappointing, though, from an interiors perspective in our modern day is curves do tend to come and go. And I find that such a shame because it is actually classic. However, for some reason in our contemporary interiors, they seem to come and go. So they were really big in the late 80s, early 90s. We had archways, we had curves in our hallways. If you think about the curved areas also in Victorian, they had those curved arches also in their hallways. I don't know what it is, but they seem to come and go. But I feel that they are such a beautiful addition to any interior because they soften a space. So I say do it. Again, it's, it may in 10 years look a little bit dated, but it will come back again. And yeah, we're also seeing them even in the cabinetry, what I'm seeing with the molding. So the cabinetry profile, we're now seeing curves. So the arches are on your shaker profile, not your shakers, but they're now a profile in their own right, and lots of different styles, thin, thick. So they are really big. They'll hang around for a while. They'll be around for quite a few years. And just like we saw 10 to 15 years ago, they'll come and they'll go. Does it mean now, because we're seeing it in so many different ways, so many different applications, does that mean now that they're actually going to hang around a lot longer and now may become more timeless? Not sure, I can't say, but they are certainly a beautiful addition. So if you love them, stick with them, apply them to your kitchen. What I'm also finding is people are becoming a little bit braver with their splashbacks. So glass splashbacks have had their day. They had their day in the 90s, and I'm not seeing them come back. Thank goodness. I can't stand glass splashbacks because they are, in my view, they're boring. They streak. I don't think that they're as easy. Yeah, they're easy to clean, but they also are difficult to clean because they're glass, so you need to get them streak free for them to look any good. But I just feel it's such a missed opportunity having a glass splashback. So that is certainly not something that I'm seeing coming back in. Thank goodness. So we're seeing people using tiles in their splashbacks. And because you can use epoxy grout, that fear of having to clean grout on a splashback is disappearing as well. And that's certainly something I educate my clients with, that you don't need to worry about the grout being porous anymore with epoxy grout. So it adds personality, it adds color, it adds style, it adds texture. So I love that people are being a little bit more brave in their splashbacks. And look, if that's not for you and you want a pared back, simple aesthetic, that's fine. You can run your bench top up as the splashback. That's 1,000 times better than using a beautiful, simple aesthetic to use, running the bench top up as your splashback. Beautiful and simple, and 1,000 times better than using a glass splashback, which I just felt was such a cop out in the 90s. What are we going to do? We're just going to put a glass splashback there. And again, as I mentioned earlier, splashbacks are also what I'm seeing where people are adding color. Yes, you can still use your neutrals, but then you can use a shape, you can use texture, but people are getting braver and they're using color in their splashback, and that's what they're using as pop. And it might just be a really bold pattern that everything's quite pared back with the cabinetry and the bench top, and then that splashback is the real wow because there's a strong pattern tile or a strong color. We're also seeing cook's tables and benches. So as part of the island bench, we're seeing that step down so that people can actually use that area as a place to dine at the bench rather than it being at the bench on stools. That step down from the island bench so that it goes down a little bit lower. Often that will be in timber to really mimic a dining table without it being a separate dining table. Now that may be in a smaller space, the dining area as part of the island bench, but it is seated with chairs, not stools. Or it's a secondary area to sit at, where everyone can sort of converse quite easily at that lower level of the bench and still have a dining table in a larger home. So you've got that too, maybe more casual at the bench, and then you've got the separate dining table as well. So it's a bit more flexible, but it also means you may have people that don't feel very comfortable on stools, so they are actually able to sit at a proper table height with a chair. And also from an accessibility perspective, it's much better than having a bench, because obviously that means that someone in a wheelchair can just sit at that bench as well. And you generally find that they can be curved, they can be square, but you're able to converse a lot easier than having everyone in a line at the island bench. So those features we're seeing now a lot more in the design of kitchens. Sustainable materials, of course, have been around for a long time, but they're coming more and more to the fore. Also because people are becoming a lot more conscious about what they're choosing. Look, natural stone has been a big thing. People love natural stone and it is absolutely beautiful, but from a sustainability perspective, people are becoming a lot more conscious about that. And so they are choosing porcelains. Porcelain uses less water. It can mimic natural stone. That also may not be a thing for people either. I don't want a product that mimics something else. But when you've got sustainability as a core criteria for your material selections, which I'm seeing more and more of, then porcelain is a really good option. Incredibly durable. You don't have the maintenance requirements that you do with natural stone, but it's a lot more sustainable. It's a lot more sustainable choice than natural stone. Recycled timber is being used. We've actually used that in a couple of our kitchens as a bench, an island bench. Obviously, people then are aware that that's going to need a little bit of maintenance, but a recycled timber also in your shelving, that's also being popular. But sustainable materials in terms of bench tops is definitely definitely becoming more popular. Metallics are also, metallics, but also coloured tapware. As I was saying earlier around the black tapware, we are now seeing metal colours in maybe 15 different types of metal colours. So it's sort of about 10 years ago, we were seeing rose gold and we were seeing really brassy brass. But now we're seeing a lot of living metals, so metals that will tarnish over time. I feel that's quite a classic choice. It's something that lives, it changes. So it's patinas. That's something that I think is going to be a classic type of metal choice. Obviously, black has become quite timeless, but we're seeing other metals like gunmetal, different shades of gunmetal. We're seeing subtle bronzes, champagnes, subtle golds rather than your brassy brass, and your bright metals that we saw about 10 years ago. They're definitely not around at the moment. We're seeing more earthy metals, not only the living metals for people that don't like something that's going to patina over time. We're seeing things that are just more earthy and lived in metals, but they add something to the space. And I feel that they are going to hang around because they're not as in your face as the metals of 10 years ago that were very bright. These are a lot more subtle in their colorways, a lot more earthy, and I think that is what's going to allow them to stay a lot more classic and be around for a lot longer. Anything that's earthy, I feel, is just, it feels lived in, it feels homey. Your tanned and your greens and that bringing the outside in, it can never really date because it just feels so at home. Retro influences. So that was something I was talking about with regards to your VJ paneling. Colourful appliances are definitely making a comeback. Even enamel tapware, when I was talking about coloured taps, they are things that are definitely going to date. But if you really want to have a statement piece, I always say the kitchen tap can be something that's completely different to the rest of the house. I don't know if you're around in the 70s like I was, but the bright blues, the red taps, the white taps, and they're making a big statement. So colour is really coming, and that's that retro vibe. And colourful appliances, we're seeing, well, dare I say it, we did see it on the block, but we're seeing colourful appliances coming out as well. And look, if you love colour and you want to have a statement piece, that's a great way to do it. Smeg did it a long time ago, but a lot of other appliance manufacturers are doing it too. So you can go for your reds, your yellows, your greens, your blues, and that's a great way to make a statement. And again, this is your house, so why not? Be brave, but just remember it needs to be something that you've always loved, because then you're going to obviously gravitate to that all the time and not get sick of it. And I think that's the key when it is your forever home, rather than thinking about what resale value is going to be. Integrated appliances have been around for a long time, but they are becoming more popular when people want a seamless look. Keeps the kitchen clutter-free, but I think from an aesthetic perspective, it keeps it incredibly streamlined. And for minimalist lovers is beautiful. That cabinetry with your built-in fridges just becomes seamless, and with your dishwashers, your appliances just sort of blend in, and that's always a lovely thing. From an appliance perspective as well, seeing a lot of steam ovens and Steam ovens have been around for a while, but people are certainly choosing them for their kitchens a lot more now. And also dual ovens. So you've got your combination ovens. They're becoming, they've been around for a while as well, but people are really starting to use them. And the thing is, appliances are changing all the time. Induction from 10 years ago is really different to what induction is now. My suggestion with your appliances is really go to one of the showrooms and have a look what's around at the moment, because the technology is mind-blowing what appliances can do now. And look, it's not a trend. Our technology is moving so quickly. So what you end up choosing now is going to change so quickly with the rapid rise of technology anyway. So I think, that's a bit of a snapshot. Kitchens, I suppose a lot of those things that I was talking about also apply to other areas of the house as well, particularly when we're talking about hard surfaces. That's going to apply to bathrooms as well. But as I always say, make sure that you're choosing things that you love, not just what you're seeing at the moment, because you're going to see a lot of it and you think, oh yeah, I really do like that. But when you're thinking about colours, think, have I always loved that colour? Have I always gravitated to that colour? And if not, then you're probably going to get sick of it. Even shapes. Just for myself, I've always gravitated to Ottoman and Moroccan style shapes, that geometrical style shapes. I know that I'm never going to get sick of those patterns if I'm to use them in tiles or splashbacks or anywhere else. But if that's something that you haven't always gravitated to, then I'd be mindful about using it, because you may end up getting sick of it a lot faster than you envisage. And if that's why I always say, sorry, I just lost my train of thought for a second. And that's why I always say you need to choose things that you know that you've always gravitated to, because it doesn't matter whether it comes and goes, you're going to still love it. And that's the key. I've got quite a geometrical pattern in my splashback. Now, that was a tile that was around for 10 years before. So it's classic, I suppose, in a way. Classic designer Patricia Urquhart. And because I'd always loved that tile, I knew I wasn't going to get sick of it. So it had been around for 10 years. I then chose it for my splashback. 11 years later, I still love it. And I knew that I was never, ever going to get sick of that design. And that's the way you should be thinking about things. And definitely do not be listening to a real estate agent that says that's going to date. You're staying in this house. That's the intention anyway. We never know what the future holds. So don't worry about resale value. It is not in your decision mindset to think about that, because the idea is you're planning on staying in the house. So all the decisions should be based around what you love, so that it is representative of you anyway. So great to be back. I hope that's been a little bit helpful about what's coming up, what you can start looking at. Has that something that you've loved? Then absolutely incorporate it. I think the great thing about trends is when there is a trend, it means that there's a lot more options available. When I built my house 11 years ago, that Moroccan aesthetic, the Ottomans geometric shape was not available. But I knew that that's something that I wanted. Now, obviously, 10 years later, it's everywhere. But when something becomes a trend, the advantage is that if you've always loved it, it means that there's going to be a lot more choice available for you, i.e. the green kitchens. 10 years ago, there was probably only a couple of greens that you could have chosen from. Now, there's probably 10 to 15 different greens that you can choose from. So that is the advantage. You just need to sanity check it with yourself. Have I always loved this? All right, so I'll be here in 3 weeks' time with another podcast episode. In the meantime, there's more than 150 episodes that you can listen to. And don't forget about the kitchen design season that I did do. That's still our most popular season, our most popular podcast in terms of how many lessons. So you can go back and listen to those if you want to know more about kitchens. As always, you can always book a chat with me via the website if you are wondering about how we can work together and how I may be able to assist you. All right then, bye for now. Have a great week. If you're ready to renovate or build your forever home, you're in the right place. Here are some ways to gain further inspiration or how we can work together. Book a chat with me so we can discuss your project in more detail and see how we may be able to assist you with one of our fixed price packages. You can book a chat with me directly at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au/chat. If you're after some peace of mind that your floor plan is as good as it can be, for a small investment, a floor plan sanity check could be just what you need. I review your plans as that second set of professional eyes, ensuring it's functional, flexible, and future-proof for lasting peace of mind. This can save you thousands in structural changes down the track. You can find out more and book directly at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au. And if you'd like to get your hands on some reading material, unlock your dream home and dive into our first ever magazine, Creating Your Forever Home. It's packed with expert insights, stunning visuals, and practical advice on building your forever home. Grab your copy and be inspired now. You can also access the first 3 chapters of my book, Your Forever Home, a practical and helpful guide to gain insights on how to create a home that will suit your needs for the long term. Everything is available at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au/links. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of My Forever Home. If you loved it, please leave a review, share it on Facebook and Instagram for your friends, and be sure to sign up to our newsletter for more insights on creating the forever home of your dreams. If you're really ready to get started, you can book a chat with me via the website whitepebbleinteriors.com.au or check out our online courses designed to provide a clear framework for you at myforeverhome.com. If you've got a question, be sure to get in touch at podcast@myforeverhome.com. Have a great day.